If this story moved you, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told you weren't ready, this channel is for you. We share real stories of quiet strength, powerful comebacks, and justice earned the hard way. Don't miss what's coming next. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when a new story drops. Leave a comment below and tell us your moment when they doubted you and you proved them wrong. This is more than just a channel. It's a community, and your voice belongs here. Subscribe now and be part of the journey. I sat in my corner office on the 17th floor of the Artisan Tower, overlooking the hazy San Diego skyline as the late morning sun shimmered across the surface of Mission Bay. Just across the avenue, employees streamed into Nexora Tech's sprawling headquarters, unaware that the system powering everything from their security clearance to data synchronization was built by the very woman they once dismissed. 7 years ago, I was just 25 and the youngest systems engineer in Nexora's advanced technology group. "This is science fiction," scoffed Warren Kilpatrick, the company's founder, leaning back in his designer chair as he casually flipped through my prototype. "You're telling me this clustering model, developed by someone barely out of grad school, will improve operational efficiency by nearly 50%? I stayed composed. In isolated testing, it averaged a 68% boost in processing speed. And it scales." He dismissed me with a wave. "Maya, I'm not here for weekend coding experiments. I need enterprise-ready platforms, not tech fair stunts." My supervisor, Ian Rivera, stepped in. "Warren, her model outperformed every legacy system we've tested against." Warren didn't budge. "Legacy takes time, decades, not months. Get back to assigned duties, Ms. Harris, or I'll reassign you." He never once used my full name with respect. I walked out of that meeting humiliated, laptop in hand, heart pounding. But that wasn't the worst of it. 2 weeks later, late at night, I received an alert. My internal credentials hadn't been deactivated. I clicked out of curiosity, only to find a hidden folder labeled Ops Next Gen. Inside was my architecture, stripped of context, my name gone. In its place? Ian Rivera's. They had stolen it. But they hadn't grasped how it worked. They launched a watered-down version riddled with gaps, vulnerable, clunky, destined to buckle under pressure. I could have sued. I could have gone public. But I chose something better. I walked out of Nexora the next morning and spent the next 3 years building quietly under a new name. What began as recovery turned into revolution. Investors weren't interested at first. To them, I was just another idealist with a laptop and a chip on her shoulder. Until they saw the performance metrics. That's when Kendrix Systems was born. We started licensing our core engine to enterprise clients, including Nexora, ironically. They didn't even realize the system they now relied on, the platform they paid a premium to lease, had originated in that prototype Warren once mocked. They called it Synapse Grid. Every password reset, every server ping, every automation ran through it. But the rights? Those belonged to me. The resignation I submitted was polite, professional. I cited personal development goals, gave full notice, and walked out with nothing but a silent patent in my name and a drive full of unrefined brilliance. No one ever questioned it. No one imagined that the youngest woman in the room had quietly secured her invention before they could bury her career. I moved into a tiny apartment in North Park, living on budget meals and black coffee. I coded through birthdays, holidays, and sleepless nights. And Synapse Grid kept evolving into something powerful, something real. A dynamic infrastructure hub that transformed how modern businesses operated. The turning point came at a closed-door tech summit in San Francisco. That's where I met Elena Ria, a legendary venture strategist who built her reputation on recognizing long shots with disruptive potential. She leaned in after my demo and smiled. "Maya, this doesn't just optimize systems. It rewrites the rules." She was right. And I had written every single one of them. She didn't skim over my demo and offer vague praise. She leaned in, took notes, challenged the mechanics. How does the Nexline grid respond during high traffic surges across multiple zones? She asked, eyebrow raised. We spoke until the cleaning crew started vacuuming under our chairs. When we finally stood, she extended her hand. This is exceptional. Why hasn't anyone delivered this before? I smiled. They've tried. Nexora deployed a weak imitation last year, I added. She froze for a second. That debacle was yours? I nodded. Their version. This is mine. Elena Ria laughed, quick and sharp. That rollout nearly sunk their entire innovation branch. Do you have any idea how many tech giants are now chasing exactly what you've already built? I did. That was the plan. 5 million for 24%, she said with absolute certainty. And I'll plug you into my enterprise network. 10 days later, Kendrix Systems was born. Elena moved fast. Her introductions unlocked meetings in skyscrapers I'd once only seen from a distance. In just 8 weeks, we signed our first big client, a hospital system desperately trying to unify its aging platforms. Within 4 more, we were taking calls from Fortune 100 companies seeking system-wide transformation. The Nexline grid operated without a hitch. I kept my identity shielded, using only my middle name and Greytant's surname, Mira Langdon, on contracts, trademarks, and public filings. The press celebrated a mysterious startup revolutionizing enterprise infrastructure. No one connected Mira Langdon to the engineer Nexora once brushed off. And I never had to expose them. Their flawed imitation crumbled under pressure. Contracts collapsed, trust vanished, and their stock fell with every media leak. Meanwhile, Nexline set the new benchmark for operational stability. Then came the email. Subject: Partnership Opportunity Inquiry. Dear Ms. Langdon, I represent Nexora Technologies, currently seeking to restructure our platform architecture. We've followed Kendrix Systems' success with great interest and would appreciate the opportunity to explore collaboration. Warm regards, Warren Kilpatrick, CEO. I read it 3 times. Every word confirmed it. They weren't reaching out. They were reaching up. Elena spotted the message in our CRM before I could say anything. She called immediately. Please tell me you're taking the meeting, she said, laughing already. Oh, I will, I replied, eyes drifting toward the Nexora Tower, visible from my penthouse overlooking San Diego Bay. Just, not yet. You're wicked, she grinned. I love it. I waited 2 weeks. Their stock slid another 10%. Analysts speculated on leadership shakeups. Warren gave empty interviews about transformative strategy shifts. It was more satisfying than I ever imagined. Then I sent a short reply, professional, polite, and clear. I'd consider the meeting if they came to me. The morning of the meeting, I hit the rooftop gym in my building, running intervals like I was shedding every condescending meeting I'd ever endured. 6 years ago, I'd walked out of Nexora with nothing but a laptop and an ignored idea. Now, their CEO was about to pitch me. Ms. Langdon, my assistant's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Kilpatrick and his team have arrived. I fastened my silver watch, adjusted the lapel of my tailored navy blazer, worth more than my first year's salary, and stepped into the glass-walled conference room with deliberate calm. Let the meeting begin. Let the curtain rise. He entered first. Same expensive threads, same overconfident gait, but the sharp edge in his expression had dulled. Doubt clung to him now. Ms. Langdon, he greeted, extending a hand. Thank you for seeing us. Trailing behind him were Ian Rivera and 2 other familiar figures I hadn't seen since the day I walked away from Nexora. None flinched. Not a hint of recognition. Amazing what 6 years, a new name, and visible power can erase from memory. Please, I said, gesturing to the seats around the glass conference table. I took my place at the head, measured and unhurried. Let them feel the imbalance. Let's keep things simple, Warren began, hands laced neatly in front of him. Our systems need a major upgrade. Nexline's reputation speaks for itself. I gave a single nod. Then we should talk terms. If you've been following this journey through every betrayal, breakthrough, and silent win, don't look away now. Subscribe, because what happens when the truth comes to light will be worth it. I tilted my head, my voice smooth and curious. Mr. Kilpatrick, tell me, how intimately do you understand the infrastructure we've built? He leaned forward, launching into a choreographed pitch loaded with jargon. Predictive flow mapping, multi-node logic scaling, hybrid deployment structures. It was technically fluent, but lifeless, like he'd memorized it, not lived it. Ian gave subtle nods, clearly the architect behind the script. Strong delivery, I said, not unkindly. Though I couldn't help noticing you skipped over your firm's last major upgrade attempt. A noticeable chill swept the room. Warren's polished smile flickered. That initiative was mishandled. We were given flawed direction. Ian dropped her gaze, suddenly fascinated by the branding on her notepad. Flawed direction? I tapped my iPad. The conference room display lit up. Are you referring to the Nexora Redline rollout from 2 years ago? The one that burned through $30 million in under a month before being quietly scrapped. Ian froze mid-breath. How did you? She began. Enough, Warren snapped, then softened. That's why we're here. We've learned. Nextline is the standard now. I rose and walked to the panoramic window, the San Diego skyline gleaming in the distance. Just across the bay stood Nexora Tower, tall and polished, clinging to past prestige. Tell me something, I said, eyes fixed outward. What became of the engineer behind the original design you attempted to duplicate? The one you erased from the record. Silence. I'm not sure what you mean, Warren offered carefully, but his tone betrayed him. I turned, locking eyes with him. Let me help you remember. A junior engineer, female, presented a dynamic framework. You dismissed it as naive. Ring any bells? Ian turned pale. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Warren narrowed his gaze, studying me closely now. Really seeing me. How do you know that? I said nothing. Instead, I returned to my seat and pressed a small button under the table. The room's main screen changed. Lines of annotated code. Architecture diagrams. The original concept deck marked clearly at the top. Mira Langdon. All eyes turned to me. Hello again, Mr. Kilpatrick, I said. Remember me? The junior engineer whose vision you buried. The room erupted. Ian dropped her pen. One of the consultants muttered a curse. Warren stood abruptly, jaw slack, color draining from his face. This isn't possible, he stammered. I folded my hands, calm and deliberate. No, Warren. This is very possible. And very real. And more than that, I said calmly, this is justice. You're not Mira Langdon, Warren stammered, his composure unraveling. That's my middle name, I replied without missing a beat. Langdon was my grandmother's surname. But you didn't know me by that back then. I let the silence hang. You knew me as Mira Densley. The engineer you brushed aside. The one you told to stop playing inventor. His face paled. We'll pursue legal channels, he said sharply, but even he could hear the panic lacing his words. That architecture was created while you were with us. Wrong, I said, cutting in. Nextline grid was fully filed, sealed, and patented before I ever presented it inside Nexora's walls. You didn't think to check the filings, did you? I leaned forward just slightly, voice even. Oh, maybe your outdated legacy systems don't allow access to historical patent records. That would explain a lot. I stood, tugged my jacket straight, and made my way to the far end of the table, each step measured. But we both know that's not why you're sitting here. He said nothing. You're here, I continued, because Nextline Grid now runs your competitor's infrastructure. Because your clients are leaving. Because the longer you delay, the more market share you lose. His jaw locked tight. Tell me what it'll take, he growled. Name your price. I gave a quiet, humorless laugh. Warren, I think you misunderstood the nature of this meeting. I'm not offering to license anything. I placed a bound folder in front of him and slid it across the table. I'm acquiring you. He blinked, fingers shaking as he flipped through the pages. Acquisition terms, shareholder agreements, proxy votes. Kendrix Systems had secured 42% of Nexora's voting shares at the current depressed valuation. We'll complete the acquisition before the next board cycle ends, I said flatly. This is personal, he whispered. No, I replied coolly. It's strategy. Your valuation is in freefall, your tech is obsolete, and your leadership is clinging to the past. We acquire and rebuild, that's what Kendrix does. I let the moment stretch. Any irony here is just a bonus. The board won't go along with this, he said weakly. They already did, I replied. I tapped a digital control on the conference table. The wall screen activated, displaying signed e-votes, board approvals, and an active green light motion. You were the last to know. Ian Rivera dropped into her seat, stunned. And what about us? That depends, I said. We retain talent. But we begin with a full review, particularly on how senior management treats emerging ideas and new voices. She looked away, defeated. You can't do this, Warren muttered. I stood, gathering my tablet. I already have. Security will escort you out. HR will coordinate by end of day. I paused at the doorway. Oh, and Warren? He looked up slowly. I gave him a subtle smile, the same condescending grin he once gave me after gutting my pitch. Your office has a lovely view, I said. I think I'll keep it. As the room emptied behind me, my phone buzzed. Elena, I answered. How did it feel? She asked, almost breathless. From my penthouse windows, I watched as Warren and his team were escorted out of the Nexora lobby. Better than I imagined, I said. Kendrix stock just jumped 12%, she added. Wall Street loves the thought of you reviving Nexora. Good, I said. Schedule the announcement. It's time for Mira Langdon to step into the light. You're really going public? Elena asked. I turned back toward the view of the San Diego harbor, golden in the afternoon sun. Not with everything, I said. This was never about revenge. It's about growth. About turning vision into infrastructure. About building what comes next. Exactly. The following morning, I stepped behind the podium overlooking San Diego Bay. The city's skyline shimmered behind me as I addressed the press, formally announcing Kendrix Systems' acquisition of Nexora Technologies. I wore a deep navy blazer, the same one I'd worn the day I walked out of their office 6 years earlier. No one else noticed the symbolism. But I did. Journalists asked about my identity, my reasons for remaining behind the curtain for so long. I stuck to the script. I spoke of vision over ego, results over headlines. They didn't need to hear about the nights spent debugging code in a studio apartment, or the internal battles where doubt sometimes echoed louder than logic. But success quiets old voices. A month later, Nexora was fully integrated. True to our promise, we reviewed every department. Some individuals stayed and thrived. Others moved on. Ian Rivera now leads regulatory operations. Steady, reliable, but always risk-averse. She never embraced the blueprint, only the rulebook. Warren Kilpatrick? He stepped down. Voluntarily, of course. His former office now serves as a secondary workspace. I rarely use it, but I kept it. A quiet, private reminder that discarded ideas don't die, they evolve. On some evenings, when the building is quiet and the lights dim, I pull out the first system draft. The diagrams they once dismissed. My raw, early architecture sketches. Not to relive rejection, but to remember why I began. That same skyscraper still rises above the harbor, but now it bears the Kendrix Systems logo. Tens of thousands connect to platforms built from the framework they once ignored. And in the lining of that old blazer, I keep a single page. My resignation note. On the back, scribbled in faded ink, remember this moment. It's not the end. And it wasn't. It was the opening chapter. If you've followed this journey, thank you. Not just for watching, but for recognizing what so many overlooked. For years, I thought shrinking myself might earn space at someone else's table. But I've learned you can't grow where you're expected to stay small. So now I turn to you. If you've ever been underestimated, share your story. Comment below. Tell us about the moment they told you no and how you're turning it into just wait. Because this was never just my story. It's ours.